Welcome to the Sonic Shaman Show, home of the Coffee Connect and Conscious Connections. The show is dedicated to empowering you to perceive, know, be, and express your unique voice in this world without the fear of judgment of others through healing, coaching, and educational services. In each episode, Hank and his guests offer tools, techniques, and inspiration to help you step into your potency. Now, here is your host, Hank Setala.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Power of Possibilities podcast. And today we have again with us Heather MacMillian. How are you doing today, Heather?
Hey, thank you so much for having me. That music is always so exciting. I'm like a little tired beforehand, then woo!
No, I love it. And it's also like an anchor. It's like, oh, possibility is about to start, you know?
Yeah.
So, and for everyone that's joining us, either now or in the replay, as a reminder, the best place to comment is on the YouTube stream. I'm going to make a comment there. I was going through some of these streams yesterday, and I saw like one that we did. There was like 10 comments, but it was to one of the places that the comments don't roll into the studio. And I was like, oh no. So we love for this to be interactive.
Yes.
But when in doubt, the best place to comment is either on like my personal profile page. It's always public. So if you just look up Hank Setala, like you'll find me, you can follow me there. Or if you're on the Holistic Health and Healing group or the Emergence of Being YouTube channel, those are the places that I know for sure you're going to always be able to comment. Anywhere else, maybe or maybe not, depends how we're streaming that day. But anyhow, today is all about the question. And this is such a foundational, pun intended, concept in Access.
Yeah.
That the art of being the question, and maybe a great place to start with that is like Gary Douglas and how he started to be the question and how his life started to change.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And before I launch into that, I just have to say how lovely it is that you're out on your porch and that the birds are contributing with their energy, with their vibration. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, normally I'm inside and I have a green screen, and I told Heather it was a small sacrifice for the movie magic to be able to be outside and like look out and see the clouds and the sun and the birds. We have these bird feeders that are, well, I'll show you. We have these bird feeders that are like right up on the window, the suction cups. And
Beautiful.
so we get to see them. Now, the one disadvantage that I found to that is the birds were eating their seed. And of course, since there's birds, it attracted some cats, and they were like in the bush right underneath the bird feeder, and a bird was like kind of swooping away to fly, and a cat came up and got him. So, but that's still fun.
Wow. Well, it's such a contribution, and it really makes me wonder about one of the questions we've asked before on this show, which is, who or what actually desires to contribute to you that you've been ignoring and refusing.
Right. And then when traumas happen, like me and the cat, well, what's right about that? I'm not getting
Exactly.
because when that happened, I was just like, And so I even had a plan to make sure it never happened again. I have an abundance of catnip out by the bird feeder now, so that the cats are in no condition to try to catch the birds. So I've added a lot more fun to the neighborhood with some very curious felines now that are always on catnip. And we have Mary Lee just saying good morning. Good morning, Mary Lee.
Good morning, Mary Lee.
So happy that you're with us. And like we said, feel free to make comments to contribute. And if it's on a replay, make a comment anyway. Make sure you tag me or Heather, and then we can make sure that we answer your questions or bring up your comments on a future stream.
Yes. We love that energy. And that's what's so different about these streams and with any Access class is that your energy and your questions contribute to everyone who's going to listen to this now and in the future. So how cool is that?
It's very cool. So going to the question, the question, how is it that I mean, it seems like kind of common sense things. However, like Access really has put a whole new element to this energy of being the question. And Gary was kind of, I want to call him the pioneer, because he didn't even know what he was really starting to get into. He just knew that things needed to change. He started asking the question, and along with that started to follow the energy. And that's where really everything started to change, and Access consciousness started to become what it is today.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, Gary was asking this question, and this is one of the things that we present in the Access Consciousness Bars class is, how did all these tools come to be? And it really began with a question. And Gary, as Hank said, was asking this question, what would I like my life to be like? And so for all of you guys listening, what would you like your life to be like? Ooh, yeah. And so with that, he wasn't coming to a conclusion of like, I'd like X, Y, or Z. And that's where I was before I found access. I was asking a lot of questions that weren't really questions. They were like, why isn't this here? Or, what would it take for this thing that I've concluded I'd like to show up? But that question that Gary was asking, what would I like my life to be like, gives you an awareness of an energy.
And it's really about awareness and not answers. One of the quotes that I put in the description of this video, that's also in the BARS manual: questions empower, answers disempower. And the reason being is that when you have come to an answer, like if you find an answer, do you continue looking for awareness or looking for possibility? You don't, because that's like the definition, the conclusion, it's the end game. That's one reason why in Access we avoid the word goal, because goal, when you hit a goal, all the energy turns and goes a different direction, or now like what happens? It's targets, which you continue to move as you continue to change. And once you ask that question, you don't even have to stick to whatever awareness comes to you. You reserve your right as an infinite being, right? I don't like the feeling of that, but you reserve your ability as an infinite being to choose again, to ask another question, and to continue to have the ball rolling. But once you have an answer, it's like the momentum of that energy just stops. And then what?
Well, yeah, I mean, when we come to a conclusion, we put up blinders to anything that doesn't match that point of view and that conclusion. And so that's where, we have this thing in Access called the 4 questions. And I mention them a lot because I love them. And my life really started to change and get a lot easier once I started to ask these 4 questions. It's for anything. What is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? If so, how do I change it? And it really gets us out of that place where we've concluded like, oh, I'm tired today. It must be this thing. Or, this isn't showing up, so I must be wrong. I mean, those are some of the conclusions that people go to. Instead, okay, well, I've asked a few times for this and it's not here yet. What is this?
Right. Or is it showing up in a way that you aren't recognizing, or that you're not seeing like a stepping stone? Dr. Dain, I think it was giving this example of he was moving into an area, had a place ready to rent, ends up going there, and like there's some crazy neighbor that is there, and he's just like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. Now instead of going into, oh my gosh, I'm being a victim here, he asked, what's right about this I'm not getting? And following the energy, he ended up with a different apartment that had an office, so he didn't have to get a separate office, and everything just worked out all the better. So what if while you're looking for that possibility, there's an opportunity to show up to make a choice that we just sometimes miss?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I see that all the time for me personally with things with my body. It's like, because, often our bodies have very different desires than we do. And we may come to a conclusion or a judgment, oh, this person's so fabulous. And our bodies may have a totally different awareness of that person.
Yeah, and Mary Lee was contributing here saying, interesting, I got to the same place with affirmations, would get to the issue, work through the issue, then I can't read to this morning apparently, then have the affirmation show up after following the energy. And that is a great thing. I would invite people though, with topographical brain mapping, they were able to show that when you pose a question, and I use affirmations too. So I'm just saying, tweak the affirmation to be in a question, and they've shown that the brain engages differently. And even the neuroscientist who did the whole thing on Access Bars, and that link is on the Emergence of Being website under the Access Bar Clinic if you want to watch it. He was showing that how topographical brain mapping, the brain changes with the when you run the bars. But that same technology is what shows us that when you ask a question to the brain, other than why, don't ask why. That's gonna be like part 2 of our conversation, the 5 things to avoid. But when you ask a question, it engages the brain differently. And if you ask that question while you're looking in the mirror, the brain starts associating the question with what it's seeing. And these are all little things that can start to add potency to the tools that you're already using. So like before, if you give me the affirmation, Mary, we'll throw it in a form of a question. If there's like one particular one you were looking with, but there's ways like, I am an infinite being. How is it that I love being an infinite being with unlimited possibilities? So that's like one example of taking something that you're saying is a statement of fact to put it as a question to the brain, where then all of a sudden it's engaging the manifestation process and actualization process of the universe to bring you the experience of that affirmation.
Yeah, and I mean, what would it take to engage the entire universe and its infinite possibilities to actually create and actualize what we desire?
Yeah.
Like, what questions can we really ask or be? What questions can we ask or be just on this stream this morning to invite a greater possibility?
Ooh, what question could we ask?
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite questions when I'm stuck is, what question can I ask or be here?
Yeah, and those like ask or be here, like sometimes a question doesn't necessarily need to be formed with speech.
Yeah.
You know? But we, especially in the Western world, like we need to analyze everything. We have to have words for everything, but we really don't.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and we're so taught that in school of getting the right answer and, getting it right. And a lot of access consciousness, especially, since the foundation class was rewritten last year, is about getting us out of that place where our whole target is trying to get it right and into the place where we're being a question in every area of our life and living.
Now, I do think we should shift into talking at least about one of those 5 things. The question why is such like a victim question. And I catch myself as a parent doing it. Like, we wonder why we think this way. And here I am as a parent, my kids do something that I'm just like, oh, and I'm like, why would you do that? And like right there, I'm starting to enforce that why mentality. But share with us, like, why such a troubling question that can cause things to show up that you wouldn't like?
Well, it's because it always puts you in a circle. Why me? Why is this happening to me? It's exactly the energy that you were talking about there of, being a victim. What if nothing ever happens to you? What if you're always choosing? It may not be a conscious choice or a fun choice. It may not be a choice that's creating the future and the life that you'd actually like to have, but you're always choosing. And one very powerful tool that you can use for anything that isn't working for you is to have a few moments of vulnerability with yourself and to ask, what choice am I making here? For anything that's not working for you. Okay, I'm choosing to make my life hard. Okay. You can destroy and uncreate all of that. You can use some of the other access tools to change it and clear it. But it's that moment of acknowledging and recognizing that you actually have choice and that it's a choice you're making.
Yeah, and now to play, is it okay if I ask a hard question, Heather?
Ask a hard question.
Oh, well, when I say hard question, this is something that I've had come up in classes, and and not just with access, with other things. When you get to the idea that, everything that's showing up in your reality is a choice. When you look at crimes and things like that, and things like rape or abuse or things like this, people can very easily go into, well, what you just said is total BS. Right. So what do we say to those situations where, from the person where they're experiencing the why me is happening, to start to shift to realize maybe this did show up because of a choice or not choice?
Well, that's where those 4 questions are essential. I mean, say, you mentioned those kind of abuse examples, and Access has a lot of really dynamic tools, and it's a topic in the foundation class of abuse. And it was one of the things that conversation actually really drew me to Access, because nothing else I was doing was looking at that with the same lightness and presence that Access did. And Access has a lot of amazing tools, both for the being and the body, to handle those issues from consciousness, which includes everything and judges nothing. So for situations like that, I would use those 4 questions. Okay, so this is occurring. What is this? What is this really? What do I do with it? Can I change it? Okay, how do I change it? And for things that trigger us like that, we can always ask, okay, so what have I created or chosen in some lifetime that is allowing this to exist? And that's where I use the clearing statement a lot. Okay, everything I ever created or chose in any lifetime that allows any and all of this to exist, I now destroy and uncreate it all. Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. And that's the access clearing statement. And you can find out more at theclearingstatement.com and watch a fun video on it.
Yeah, I have to remember now. I should just put every stream that we do. I should just put that website. And be like, it's in the video description, because every time I end up running and getting it. And just to give, because I like speaking in metaphors. Like one example I give for that is say, sometime in the past, you empowered something greater than yourself. And in a way, that is opening up this window for things to happen to you instead of through you. And though you might not consciously be choosing to have that window open now, you forgot to close it when you were 3, when you were
Beautiful.
5. And so the question is then, well, if a burglar comes in because you left that window open, was that because of you invited the burglar in? Not consciously, but you left the window open for that energy to occur. So what is this is like identifying that window that was left open and using the clearing statement as a tool to close the window so those things stop showing up.
Yeah. And I mean, you can always ask too, what judgments, what fixed points of view do I have here that are creating this?
And the other part that is coming to me with like in the Money's Not the Problem, You Are book, they talk about elves, which is evil little f. I mean, that's what they say. And as if I say the word, then I go to put this on Apple Podcasts, it will be like, oh, there's profanity in it. So evil little f. You can fill in the blank.
You can fill in whatever F word you'd like.
But ironically, one of the things that empowers people that are that energy is our resistance for them being that.
Totally, it's the bully. It's the bully thing. The only, the people that pick on us, that make us wrong. What are they fighting against? That barrier that says, don't tease me.
But even in school, like there's some schools of thought that teach, man is generally good. Oh, people wouldn't do that. Like we're trained to be very trusting, or I don't want to say trusting, but that's the best word I have at the moment. But we're taught to give people way more benefit of the doubt, that we are willing to not see some of the things that people are willing to choose. And it's when those things, it's like, what are you aware of that you're not willing to acknowledge, that if you were to acknowledge, would avoid all this stuff, because you would see it coming and make a different choice to not put yourself in the position of some of these things happening. So that's a great takeaway from a money book, but is relevant, very much relevant to our conversation here. Yeah.
And I mean, that's one of the great, I don't recall which of the money books. If you do, chime in with that. It's one of them. Gary has a story. Like, what if the only way you could ever have a problem or something like that occur is if you cut off your awareness? Gary Douglas always told his kids, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, to not be careful, but to be aware.
Yeah. I don't know which book it is, but I tell my kids that all the time too. It's like, I'll catch myself. Be careful. Wait, be aware, be mindful. And make a choice out of awareness and not as a reactionary thing because something showed up because you cut off your awareness.
Yeah, I always told my daughter, like, even if it's the parent of a friend, or if it's even someone in the family, if they're giving you, if you've got that prickle, that awareness that something's off, scream and run. Like, just because you have a relationship with someone, just because someone's, defined as some sort of something for you, if you have the awareness that it is not going to work out well, turn the other way.
Yeah, I even had something come up yesterday, and I even knew that I misunderstood it, but then I just didn't follow through with it. And then this morning it was like, oh, you didn't do that? I'm like, well, I knew that I knew, and then I did something different anyway. So we allow ourselves to do that so often. It's just, but what would it take to step out of that and to really start choosing based on your awareness, because we've been taught to dismiss it. How many times as a kid, well, that's in your head. Like, you can possibly know that. How would you know? And we start to discredit our own knowing. And what would it take to reclaim that knowing?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like everywhere your knowing was invalidated, everywhere where you were told that you couldn't know something that you knew, and everything you did to buy all of those lies, where you guys destroy and uncreate all of that.
Yes.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys, and beyond.
Now, Mary Lee was bringing this up, and hopefully I read it right because I've been reading bad today. But it says, seems that by asking a question, I think it's supposed to be bypass having it come up again so you can choose differently and have a different result. That's especially today's hashtag, because I put another access hashtag in the bottom right corner. That is the what else is possible.
Yes.
Like, that question is one of those questions that breaks the why question, because why is like that looping question. Instead of asking why, say what else is possible. Or what I love to say is, what energy could I be to create a different possibility around and whatever's sticking you, whatever continues to show up. And that seems to be a really good one. And then I add in, and everything that doesn't allow that, destroy it and create it. And do the access clearing statement, because it's identifying the energy to step into and everything that stops you from allowing that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, when we recognize that everything that's showing up for us is because of a choice that we've made. And speaking of choice, it's really fresh in my awareness today, because Dr. Dain Heer did a Facebook Live on his business page yesterday on the topic of choice. And it was really phenomenal. So if you'd like to have more of this energy of choice, and what choices can you make today that would create a greater life and living for you and your body right away? What choices can you make right now that will create a greater future? If you'd like to step into more of the power of choice, that's a really great free gift that's right there in the video section on his business page.
I'll look for the link in a moment. Another thing when it comes to the question, and this was in a conscious parenting book of all things that I read, that in order to manipulate your children, you only give them two choices. So really, they have this infinite possibility of things that they could choose to do. But because you really want them to clean the room or put the dishes away, you say, would you like this or would you like this? And you're teaching them to look at blinders of only A and B, the type of things. And even employers do this too. Corporations do this to get employees. Well, would you rather work late today or would you rather do, and they use it as a way to reduce your field of vision of what the possibilities are. So what would it take to take those off and really be able to choose from all the different things that you could have show up as an infinite being?
Yeah, I love that, because it's like we're really conditioned in that way. And it just reminds me of a lot of the conversations and clearings from the foundation class are really about removing all of that programming that we get from parents, from teachers, from corporations, to get us to not see the possibilities.
Yeah, very things that are. We'll have a whole nother stream just on corporations. I could already. I was like, I could go down this rabbit hole, but I will lose the topic of question. But that could be a whole nother topic. I'll put that on the parking lot.
Corporate gaslighting.
Oh, I almost picked gaslighting for the topic today. And then I was like, oh, we'll do questions. But like gaslighting, there's a movie called Gaslighting that if you haven't watched it, maybe we'll plan that one further in advance. But like, everybody watch this movie, then show up to the stream, and we can have a very interesting conversation around that. Yeah.
I mean, we were talking a little bit about abuse before, and that's one of the movies that we recommend in Access if that is something that you'd like to get free from, to watch that movie.
Yeah, and people tend to, when people are very aware, well, to use the word that Ryan would use, like the empath and the narcissist is like a moth to the flame. However, like when you really recognize that, you can not be a victim of that energy and rather use that energy to make a different choice.
Well, and awareness is really the key here. I mean, really asking that question, okay, well, something's up here. What is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? How do I change it? And when you get a no, okay, well, what other question could I ask here? What different choice could I make here?
Ooh, I know. You could ask what else is possible.
Yes.
Hashtag WEIP.
Yes, yes.
Or what's right. I usually have all the questions in here. I got how does it get any better than this? Where's my what else is possible?
Woohoo, how does it get any better than this?
I think somebody deleted some of my questions that uses the same folder. But anyway, or how about this one? If you really get stuck and something's and you don't know what the question is, use this as a tool to start shifting the energy. This is the mantra of Access. Normally I have it in the background, but I don't have the green screen today. But all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And say that in the mirror. And but if you can, say it anytime. But if you see a mirror especially, start running it. Rear view mirror of the car at a stoplight, start running it. All that comes to me, these joy and glory. Like you can really start to shift and tell the universe, this is what I'm focusing on. And it's going to start to deliver you opportunities to experience life coming to you with ease and joy and glory.
Yeah. I mean, what are the infinite possibilities for you to use that mantra in ways that will expand your life and living? How can it contribute to you changing what you'd like to change in life?
Absolutely. Now let's shift a little bit. Well, because it's still going to be in the question, of course. But there's 5 things in Access that we ask questions, and there's 5 little things that sometimes when we include these in what we're talking about, it might not create as much possibility as it could otherwise. And one of them we've already talked about, which is the question why. Which is like
gets you in a circle.
Yeah. And I'm going to jokingly just demonstrate the next one. It's the word but. So like, so like if I were to say, Heather, I love your hair today, but no, but I really do love your hair today. I'm just joking with you. But like it linguistically negates everything you said up until that point. And so like it can actually have a really good use to like trick the mind and things. But in general, like if you throw but into whatever you're saying, it can have a different impact. What's your experience with the word but?
Well, the word but is so fun when you get an awareness of this word, because you can hear it all the time in the way people speak. I'd love to go out with you, but, and then everything that comes after the but is their reason and justification for, what they're going to choose. I'd love to go out with you, but, I have to, polish the silver or whatever the excuse is. It's just going to be their reason and justification. So when you hear a but, and when I hear it as a facilitator in a class, it's like, well, I'd like to change this, but I know it's never going to change. Okay, well, thank you for telling me that you're not really open to asking a question. And in Access classes are so different in that when you ask a question in class, you actually open the door to a different possibility, not just for you, but for everyone else who is in the class. So someone, could ask, how can I add some additional revenue streams to my life? What's actually, what would I have to do? And that opens the door to something different showing up for everyone.
Right. And how many times are we saying, like, raise your hand in the comments, like, oh, I would love to have more money, but like, is there some sort of reason or justification of why it's not showing up in your life? It's kind of like the truth is I would love to have more money, but the lie is I have all these reasons why I'm not allowing it.
Well, and yeah, I mean, and the but is what you've already decided is true and real, or what you've already chosen. So there's your reason and justification for it. A real question would be, okay, well, what else is possible here? What else would really be more fun here? What would actually contribute to the life and living I'd like to have?
That feels a lot lighter.
Yeah.
And a homework assignment for everybody watching now or on a replay, just for that one word but, look through the next day, the next week, like challenge yourself to like, what would it take for me to catch myself everywhere where I start to reason and justify things not showing up in my reality that I would really like for it to show up. Because that is just like Heather said, like someone says that in class and she's like, oh, they're not really open to change. Like, but if you catch yourself doing that, then you could have a different possibility by saying what else is possible around this energy, and then say all that stuff that crazy Heather lady would say. I'm calling that energy up because attention drives a lot of that. And there's a tool in class where if you don't know what to say everything Gary would say.
Mhm.
And even that, because you're in allowance of whatever Gary would say, and he usually says some pretty crazy, wild stuff that can create a lot of change.
So
And so
much
does Heather.
fun. So much fun. Yes.
So I like the way Heather phrases things better. It doesn't hurt my brain as much as Gary.
Yeah, so much of Access is designed to bypass your logical mind, and the having the awareness of the word "but" is such an amazing gift, because you can catch yourself when you're saying it to yourself. You're disempowering yourself. And if you just took a moment to really ask, okay, well, what choice am I making here? Okay, well, what would I really like to choose?
Now, one cool trick, and I learned this at fellowships where I did my mediumship training, they would use the word "but" kind of knowing all what we just talked about, they would use it as a tool to start gaining awareness. So for people who don't trust their intuitive gifts, they would say,
Mm.
and they didn't explain this to us first. Like they had us do exercises to come to our own awareness that it worked, and then they explained what they did to us. But you would say, I don't know why I'm saying this to you, but, and now you've just taken the part that doubts you being an infinite being off the table. And usually the next thing you say is going to be something that is tapping into your knowing. So that's like a really fun little tool to play with. And I know that's probably the first time, well, maybe Access does that somewhere too. That's just something that I've used as a trick when I'm really stuck, to say, I don't know why I'm saying this, but, and then that breaks the energy through where I can start getting at my intuitive knowings back.
Yeah, one I learned in something before Access was, if I were to know where this was, I use it as a tool when I can't find something. If I were to know where this was, where would it be? And usually, like, my body will reach right for it, or I'll like go to some strange place in my house and it'll be there. Like if I were to know where my keys are, where would they be? So
If
different
you,
way of accessing it.
when you see me at the center when I'm doing a sound concert and I'm looking for something in particular, I swear I hear it calling from the other room, like I'm over here. Like it's really a fun scenario. And just a reminder, everyone, if you have a question, if you have a comment, please ask. We'd love to go down any rabbit hole you like. I see people
Yeah.
watching, so I know you're there. But if you're just enjoying your coffee, that's fine too. I'm having a delicious Peruvian tea today, so I got my little pick me up. But where would you like the conversation to go? There's three more of these that I'm going to bring up for Heather. These 5 things that kind of limit the energy of something, and this one goes right along with "but," and it is try.
Oh my gosh, I love try. This is a great way to empower yourself. And when you're listening to people, listening for the word try is really key. And when you hear yourself saying try, to have this awareness as well. When someone says the word try, they're basically saying they're not going to do what they're going to try to do. So I'll try and call you later means I'm not going to call you. I just don't feel like telling you that I'm not going to call you. Or, I'll try and get this done. If someone working with you says that, you have the awareness right there in what they're saying, that they're not going to get it done. So that would be, instead of going into victim of like, oh, if they're not getting this done, they're so wrong, I'm so wrong. Okay, well, they told me right there they were going to try, which means not do this thing. So how else can I get this handled? Who else would love to do this?
Right. And to bring back probably a quote that most everybody will know from Star Wars, Yoda said, "Do or do not. There is no try."
I love it.
Yeah. And so like that's a huge one. And it makes me think, because I was raised Lutheran, so there's like a couple Bible verses that as I have become more aware and taken access and shamanism, different things, that it gives a whole new meaning to it. There's this one passage that says, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." And everything else is a reason, a justification, empowering somebody else's judgment by needing to disprove it or prove it. Like when you're making a choice, can you do it? Just say no. Like where have we gotten tripped up with having to have a reason and justification for everything we choose instead of just choosing?
Totally. And that's how I've heard Gary Douglas talk about this multiple times, that's how he chooses. Yes, no. I mean, the awareness is that fast. And what if you can't make a wrong choice either? I mean, that's another place where if we stop judging ourselves, Because what if every choice you make is going to create more and more awareness for you?
Right. And so we should start quoting Star Wars more often, because now we got people waking up. We have
Woo!
Yoda,
Yoda's the best. I love it.
and like, yep, love Yoda. No, but truly, like, that's the best example that everybody can look at in movies, and you'll hear us talk a lot. We could probably do a whole movie series, with gaslighting and all these other
Love
things,
that.
like
Yeah.
these metaphysical truths. I don't want to use the word metaphysical, that just these truths that are woven in, whether they intentionally did it or if there was something working through them that like sprinkled all these little things of awareness and ability to grow from these movies. That there's such a great contribution. You could go back and start watching a lot of things from childhood even, and with a new set of awareness, like see how things are woven in and picking up different things. And then with that new awareness and that new framework, what else is possible with this that I could apply in other areas of my life? It's all so good. But Butt and Try, those two are like compadres.
Huge. Yeah. Yeah. Such a gift to have that tool in your toolkit, and just to, without judgment, catch yourself. Oh, I said try there. I guess, do I really desire to do this? Like,
And desire is a key word there, because that's going to transition us into the next one, which is the word want. And I think it was in 1943 or 1946, Gary was saying, and you can go look your other homework for today. Go find a dictionary that was printed before these dates. And if you look up the word want in the dictionary, there is really one main meaning, which is
to lack.
To lack. And today we substitute the word want and desire. We like interchange them, but the energy of the word want is to lack. Rich people lack for nothing. Rich people want for nothing. So that is like, so catch yourself, like when you say I want X, Y, or Z. Now one could argue, and I think this is true for a lot of people, that sometimes maybe energetically they are in the place where want for them is desire. But if you're using the words more unconsciously, like the energy of that word is lack.
Yeah. And one way to play with this for yourself to get an awareness of it, and it's out of this book called the How to Become Money Workbook. An exercise to play with there is get the energy of, I want money. It's like, ooh.
I remember the first time this happened to me, like I'd never heard this concept before, and Andrew Gardello was doing a clarity night at the center, and he had like everybody saying 10 times out loud, I don't want money, I don't want money, I don't want money. And then he had said, I want money first. And then he said, I don't want money. And it seems so counterintuitive. But when you say, I don't want money, you're saying, I don't lack money. And like the whole class, you could feel the energy shift. And like everybody's just looking at each other like, this makes absolutely no sense. But it's lighter to say, I don't want money, because you're saying, I don't lack money.
Yeah. So that's the tool right there. Like, I don't want money has a totally different energy to it. So if you find yourself in a place where you're kind of in a sticky wicket with money, I don't want 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 money. So much lighter and more expansive, and play with it. See what shows up for you. And that's the space from which you can create an abundance of money.
Oh, cool. We got a question that's probably going to put us in a whole different direction. So before I do that, what I'm going to do, everyone, I'm going to play a quick video, because I'm going to break this video for 2 different podcasts, because we're going to go in such a different direction. So I'm going to play this little video, and then we're going to answer this question about the word try as it relates to bodies.
Awesome.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode by clicking the subscribe button now. This show is made possible by listeners like you. Hank is part of the Emergence of Being Contributor Network. Visit emergenceofbeing.com to find all the content from the contributors and learn about our services and upcoming events. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
Hello, everyone. I'm pretending to start anew because we had such a great question come up in our stream about being the question that is going to kind of take us a whole different direction as it relates to bodies and things. So this is from a Facebook user. I don't see your name. If you'd like to give us your name, you can comment that, and we'll be able to speak to you more directly. But she's asking, what about dealing with physical limitations?
Mhm.
I have used the word try a lot, especially when making plans, because I don't know how my body will function the day of the event. Any advice?
Well, another tool to use here, I mean, I would use the 4 questions for that as well. Okay, well, what is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? How do I change it? And the one thing that we jokingly and not jokingly say in access classes, the one thing you don't get to say is, I don't know. Because the tagline of access and all of these access tools is about empowering you to know that you do know. So, one question that you could ask, and it's great for bodies, it's great for anything, is what energy, space, and consciousness can my body and I be that would allow me to have total clarity and ease with all of this?
Yeah.
And everything that doesn't allow that, will you destroy and uncreate it all?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyonds. And run that one over and over. What energy, space, consciousness, choice can you and your body be that would allow you to have total clarity and ease with all of this? And everything that doesn't allow that, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right,
And,
wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyonds.
and this is actually Amber from yesterday who was contributing to one of our
Hey, Amber.
conversations.
Thanks
And
for
it's,
coming
of
back.
course, I'm surprised she didn't make a comment with the Star Wars thing with the Ewok. But there was another tool from yesterday that we answered, I think, towards the end, with related to blood pressure, and that was just to touch the body. Or maybe this was 2 days ago, but it was like a huge thing if you want to bring that up again, because when your body isn't cooperating, quote unquote, that might be a great tool for Amber as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, what if our bodies have consciousness, and what is your body trying to tell you that you haven't been willing to hear? And when we're in judgment of our body, or when we have projections or expectations of our bodies or anyone else's, we're creating a limitation. So one way to outcreate that, to get around that, is gratitude, because you can't actually have gratitude and judgment simultaneously. So even just a few seconds of gratitude for someone or something that you've been having difficulties with can create a different possibility if you're willing to have it. So the exercise we talked about the other day was just thank you, body, having that, putting your hands on your face or whatever part of your body would be the most fun for you. Thank you, body. To just have those few beats of gratitude for your body. And from that space, asking a question. Okay, body, I acknowledge you've been trying to tell me something with this. What would you like me to know? And is there an easier way that you could tell me this?
Ooh, I love that. Is there an easier way you could tell me this? Ooh.
Mhm.
And to share with you a story, when I was starting to get into healing work, and it was way back when I was still doing, not even before I did my 2-year program at Fellowships, I think I was like right before that, there was one of my clients at a group healing share that had lupus. And
Mhm.
and this is before access. I didn't even know about asking questions, but I would ask spirit, you know, what is this really about? Like, what is the original wound, is the wording that I would like to
Mhm.
always say. And for her, it came up that there was like this energy between her and her father, and it was manifesting as the lupus. And I didn't know it at the time, but her dad had lupus too.
Wow.
And when I brought up, I'm like, well, it feels as though something's going along around your father. Now in Access Land, now I would have rather, if I could go back and do it again, ask her the questions to get her to come to the awareness
Right.
that it was her father. Because the worst thing I could do is stick her with the point of view, right?
Exactly. With
But
this whole topic of question. Yeah.
right, but at the time I didn't have that tool. I would manipulate differently today, or work with the energy differently. Manipulation's not a bad word, folks. It's just handling an energy. But we
Mhm.
have a lot of preconceived notions about the word manipulate. But the cool thing is she was open to receiving that, and she was also open to receiving that it didn't have to be that way. And she ended up like doing some work with her dad, and her lupus went away and her dad's lupus went away, and the doctors were baffled because she allowed herself to come to the awareness and take care of that work. Now, could all that have been as easy as a pot and pock back then? Maybe, who knows? But the reason I tell you the story is like what energies might be showing up that you're not acknowledging, that if you were to acknowledge and make a different choice could change everything. And then the body wouldn't be holding the energy of whatever that relationship is with, like in this example, between her and her dad, where the lupus was manifesting. And one final thing to that story, that question that I asked her that brought up all this stuff is I asked, what do you love about your disease? Was the first thing I asked her. And it turned out that she used her disease as a reason and justification when she didn't want to do something. And so it's like, well, you could say no and not have lupus. And that kind of goes back to the part 1 of this episode where we said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. You don't have to reason and justify all that type of things. And Amber was saying, I assume it's still Amber, I do practice gratitude daily. I never thought to thank my body though.
Yay. Yeah. How does it get better than that? And another tool, thank you so much for that, Hank, because what that inspired was one of the tools of access that we haven't talked about in this so far, and that's so amazing for bodies, is who does this belong to?
Oh, how did we not bring that up sooner?
I know. we're both so psychic and aware. I mean, that tool was and is a lifesaver for me. I mean, when I'm not totally happy and having a great time, it's like, wow, who does this really belong to? What if you're far more psychic and aware than you've ever given yourself credit for, than you've ever acknowledged? And what if the stuff that's going on with your body isn't even yours? So for body stuff too, we can ask, who does this belong to? And then we can also ask some follow-up questions. Is this mine? Is this someone else's? Or is this something else? If you get a something else, are you an earth healer? Are you really aware of the planet? I mean, some of us are super aware of the earth and the places where it requires some energy from us in order to heal. And so an exercise for all of us to play with right now, if you're willing, is to take a place in your body where you've got some sort of tension or intensity or whatever you would call it. For me, it's like kind of around here. And now let's just, on 3, like just gift that energy to the earth. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And how many of you are a little bit lighter after that?
I love that tool. Still can't believe we forgot it for so long.
I know. Here we are, like both psychic mediums and all of that, and we haven't even presented who does this belong to yet.
And when we say that, if this is your first stream, I don't think we've brought that up on any previous stream.
Nope. I don't think we have. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And normally it's one of the first tools I tell people about.
Thank you, Facebook user.
Yeah. And if you have, well, almost everybody has Apple or Android. There's an app that's free by Dr. Dain Heer, and it's called Who Does This Belong To? And you can set it up for like every 30 seconds or however, like there's different settings where you can make the frequency different. But the idea is that throughout the day, it's like bing, and it's your reminder to ask, who does this belong to? Because it's the times where we're receiving that information and we're not necessarily in the question that can overwhelm us a little bit more. But if you take yourself and start training yourself to always ask that, you minimize how much of that is coming in. And the Facebook user says, yes, thank you, I feel lighter. That is your 1, 2, 3. You can do that all day long, and just continually gifting the energy to the earth. And from the shamanic standpoint, we look at that as a beautiful gift to the earth, because that heaviness is like food for her. It's like that what you're getting rid of, she has the ability to shift and change and digest. And so we always look at it as a contribution that you're being to the earth. It's not just you dumping stuff. So I feel it's important to mention that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. I mean, what energies do you and your body have available that the earth desires and requires of you?
Ooh.
Beautiful.
And now it's as easy as counting to 3, and you can give it. And there's another thing that this is in the bars class, but Amber, I'll send you. I think I have a video that I have of walking someone through it. But the thymus exercise, I feel, is like a wonderful contribution to the body as well, because they say it's like I don't know if this is an access thing. In other realms, they call it the seat of the soul. What's
Mhm.
access's point of view on the thymus? Because I know like the body and the being, it seems to really bring those together.
Well, we talk about it in the bars class because it's a vestigial organ, and once you start to use these tools and open to greater and greater possibilities, it starts to wake up again and handle stuff. And it's also an amazing gift if you're a little sluggish, or people use it in different ways. And the number one thing with just having that awareness in that tool is to just play with it.
Definitely. And I'll send you something because I know I've worked with Amber before. And I might have even brought that
Awesome.
up in our sessions before, because especially people that have anything physical going on, I really like to run those energies while I work on people to get that going. And I
Mhm.
know Heather does it before she does exercises and things like that, because it like
Yeah.
gives more potency to the body and what it can receive from doing exercises and things like that, or running or anything like that. So like this is right on topic for the second part about bodies and taking care of them. Uh,
Yeah.
the tools we talked about, giving to the earth, the thymus exercise, asking those questions. Is there anything? Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah. She said, yes, we have run the thymus energies before in session. Perfect. So it's not completely out of the blue. But for everyone else, that is like one of the unsung heroes of taking a bars class, because people come into it thinking they're learning just a modality, and it is way more. There's
So
that.
much more. Yeah.
There's other body processes they do. I can't think of it now, but there's a couple other ones, and maybe it changed, and that's why I'm not saying it, because I don't want to. But you learn a couple other body processes. Exit stage left, which can be a huge contribution for people who are needing to make a choice to live or to go, if they're in that phase of just being diagnosed as terminal. That can create space for a whole different possibility. There's another one I can't remember, but anyway, know that there's all kinds of contribution
All
from
sorts of
from
juicy
ours.
tools in there to make your life easier and more fun. And what if the purpose of life is to have fun? And what can your body contribute to that? And what points of view do you have about your body that are in the way of that?
And how many times is there fun right outside our doorstep and we choose not to have it? My kids' parents don't like me very much, because when we go when we go to a birthday party and there is a bounce house, I'm getting in that bounce house, and I'm bouncing with the kids, and we're having a blast. And then now all the other kids, they go to their parents and like, come to the bounce house, because they see this other crazy 40-year-old and they're like bouncing with the kids, and the other person's like, no, 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 no. It's like, well, I'm allowed myself to have fun. Like, where do we not allow ourselves, because now we're going to judge people judging us for having fun?
Well, yeah. And when did you give up having fun in the way that's really nurturing and fun for you and your body? I mean, the adult and kind of this reality's version of fun may not be fun for a lot of us. I mean, for me, it's so fun to go out in the morning and to hear the birds singing. And I'm grateful for the birds around you. I'm grateful for the birds that are here. I notice when we stream like this, it's so much fun, and the birds come and they sing, and it's just kind of this symphony, and that's fun for me. It may be a different definition of fun than a lot of people have in this reality, which
Yeah.
is fun around, kind of checking out from bodies and awareness.
And I wasn't trying to, imply that Heather couldn't appreciate a good bounce house or anything like that. But
I love a good bounce house. Oh my gosh, that's so much fun. That's awesome.
no, but there's something to be said. Like, if people don't always experience fun the same way, but I can tell from the look. Like, you can tell sometimes, like, there's an adult that they would love to, like, just
They're like they're like trying to get
yeah,
there.
let
Yeah.
their kid out. Or another example is like, we have this annual tradition. We go to this like one, it's called Swings and Things, and they have these bumper boats, and we will get like the all day pass, and we will just be on these bumper boats all day long having a blast. And like, you see, well, anyway, like, just like what little what's the word I want to look at? What would just be fun? Like, don't judge and like, I'm too old for that or anything like
Mhm.
that. Like, truly, what
Oh,
would be
yeah.
the infinite of ways that you could allow yourself to have fun, and what would that do for the body?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's such a great question. I notice I get enlivened by that question. And that's a question to ask your body too. Like body, we call it in access movement instead of exercise, because bodies hear exercise and they hear the word exorcism.
Oh,
So you can ask your body, what movement would be pleasurable for you, what movement would be joyful for you, and how much do we just function from, a fixed point of view or a conclusion or buying someone else's point of view of what's going to work for us. I mean, here Hank's talking about the bounce house. What a great movement to do. What movement does your body actually desire? What would be fun?
And it could be something as simple as I'm going on like a 4-hour hike later today, and that's like hugely fun for me. But it could be anything. Maybe you find fun in gardening or something else.
Or just dancing, like what?
Yeah, dancing. Yeah, see, that would be me. Like, oh, I'm not going to dance, but maybe I have been caught dancing around my mesa once or twice. Amber says, "Laugh out loud." What if that? And for those of you who didn't see the stream from a day or two ago, I forget which one it was. Amber was ill, and she had like these children start showing up because a cat started showing up, and she had all these wonderful interactions with the kids. And now she's posing this question, laugh out loud: what if that's why I got sick? So that I would be stuck at home and become friends with the neighborhood kids. I'm the weird lady that talks to a tree every day. And I would throw the question back, what would it be like to have the awareness that you could have this gift and this relationship with the children without being sick? What if you didn't have to be sick to have that in your life?
Yeah. And I mean, weird, you said one of my favorite words. And when someone calls you weird, thank you. Because weird means, and Hank was talking about the original definitions of words before the dictionary was changed. The original definition of weird is a spirit, fate, or destiny. So when someone says, oh my gosh, you're so weird, thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement. I'm so grateful. That's so cool.
Yep, dare to be different, dare to be weird. And as a reminder, because we talked about a couple other streams, if you'd like to catch all the content that Heather and I have made, the website I have up right now, emergenceofbeing.com/possibility, has all the streams that Heather and I have been doing, almost all. I have to add this one, of course, and yesterday still. But it has them all, and it's also relevant for some of the different workshops and classes that Heather has coming up in the Cleveland area and virtually. So like the How to Become Money workbook, the foundation, we have a buyer's class, and another How to Become Money workbook. So there's like 5 or 6 different things coming up with Heather. And then there's a link to Heather's personal page on Access Consciousness. She has even more stuff that she's doing, but these are all the things specifically that she's doing through Emergence of Being. So thank you for contributing so much to the entity of Emergence of Being, which is right on the topic of the body, because the body is a separate entity. I mentioned Emergence of Being. I look at a business as an entity, and like, what can you be with your business to create more? What could you be with your body to create more and really be in communion instead of opposition? And that's like a huge thing where we sometimes take our bodies for granted, or we're doing things to our body instead of with our body. And we could go have a whole nother stream just on that probably.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, we talked about this either yesterday or the day before, that what if the purpose of money is to provide more comfort and nurturance for your body? And wow, like, what is your body actually asking for? What would your body like to contribute that you haven't been willing to perceive, know, be, and receive?
Amber brings up a point here, and I'm going to share a story from Ryan that matches the energy of this. But she says, I guess because if I wasn't sick, I would be back working crazy hours. I worked in a restaurant, so I just she was never around when the kids were out. But now you do have the awareness. So like, what energy, space, consciousness, and choice could your body being on Beyond Be to have a different possibility with how the body and you can create in this world?
Yeah. And I love that, because it's like where we decided that this is all we can do, to have money.
Right. And every place where you identify with your body being a certain way now, like destroying and creating that is key, because like in my example with the girl with lupus earlier, she was able to realize, hey, I don't have to not do something and blame it on the lupus. I can just choose not to. She could have choice.
So true.
Yeah, you can have choice in the world. You can have choice in the world without having to justify it by something showing up that you don't like and having an excuse. Your yes can be yes, your no can be no. And in that space, you could say, I'm not going to take that job. that would allow me to have this time where I have this showing up in my life? Or how else could that show up in a different thing? Could you actually have a job where you work with kids? Like
Yeah.
there's like a lot of energy there with what else is possible around that, but not to empower that past happenstance to impact today's choice.
Yeah, that's really where what else is possible comes in here, that gets us around and beyond our own conclusions of, where have I decided that this is the only thing that's available to me? Really, what else is possible? And what would be way more fun? What would be way more fun for you and your body?
What would be too much fun?
What would be too much fun? I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll hear us say that a lot. Have too much fun. Or Heather was in Florida. I'm like, I hope you have too much fun. Like what a gift to being able to be in the space of having so much fun that you have so much extra energy that you might be able to put it out in the universe to create change with that.
Yeah. And there's a few things like that people use and create as excuses or reasons and justifications that no one can argue with. And being sick is one of them, and money is another one. Kids, no one's going to say like, hey, let's go out and have some fun tonight. Well, I can't because I don't have the money. No one's going to argue with that. So, and like Hank said, what if we could just choose and not require an excuse or a reason and justification?
Yeah. And I forgot what the example I was going to give with Ryan. He worked at a manufacturing facility as a shipping clerk at the time, and they were using all kinds of different chemicals, and wherever his thing was, there was like a vent that would just like, there would always be this unpleasant thing, and he already had gotten the awareness, I need to get out of here. I need to be doing something else. And so he had the inspiration, and then one day I putting that in air quotes because it's relevant to the punchline of the story here in a moment. So then at work he ends up having this respiratory episode, and they have to take him to the hospital, and he's going through all these things. I had to drive down, and I rode his bike from like this one place over to from the hospital over to our office because it was close to where we were working at the time. But when you asked him about it, he's just like, well, when he asked his guides about it, when he tapped in, it was like, well, why did this happen? How could it be avoided? They're like, well, we tried inspiration and that didn't work. We thought respiration would do the trick. And so like when
they have a sense of humor.
They do. But I'm just curious, Amber, like prior to something occurring with the body, were there awarenesses that had we been attuned to it or listened to it might have resulted in choosing something different before that happened? But once that happens and you have the experience of something occurring with the body that's making you look at or allowing you the space to look at a different possibility, does the body still need to be compromised? And what would it take to step and allow the body to start resonate back into healing? Because you don't need that anymore. You have your awareness and you can totally choose.
Yeah, and that reminds me of it in one of the money books that you've been doing the readings of. There's the example of, what whispers is the universe, giving you? Where is the universe whispering to you, hey, it's time to make a different choice? And then it gets a little bit louder. So everything that creates the necessity of it being a 2x4.
Yeah. So what energy, space, consciousness, and choice could we be to hear the whisperings of the universe so we could have everything show up in our life with total ease?
Total ease. Wow, everything that doesn't allow that, can we destroy it and create it all?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyond.
And I truly hope all that you are listening, like we go through these questions, like I'm legitimately like having these awarenesses, and this is like, oh my gosh, this is like so much potency that's coming from these conversations. I feel like I'm getting like little mini foundations as I continue to talk to Heather through these little streams. So it's so much fun. Thank you so much for doing these with me. We're actually over an hour, but we're breaking this into 2 episodes, so it's all good. But was there any other, we'll say, final call for questions, whether on this topic or any other rabbit hole of possibility? Assuming, Heather, we had planned for an hour. I don't know how you were doing on time.
Yeah, let's take any final questions for today. Anything else anyone's wondering about?
Yeah, and then we should be, tomorrow is Thursday. I think we may be streaming tomorrow, and then it's going to be relevant on our internet connections because I'm going to be traveling and Heather is still traveling. But if we have internet, we do plan to make content or stream on the weekend as well. And we're kind of front loading a lot of stuff right now. And then as we do that, we may space it out more, but we'll see. Like, as long as you're good at doing it, I love doing this type of stuff.
Me too. And I love the energy that it's generating. It's like putting out these magical sparkles of possibility. I love it. So
Amber, I'm so happy that you brought this up. She was just saying, I need to understand my gifts more. Well, there's an energy around the word understanding, but that could be a whole nother stream. I need to understand my gifts more. I'm super sensitive to earth energy. I feel the magnetic poles and they move, and they're moving. Space weather affects me too. I'm really hoping that I can get the money together for the shaman training with Zane. So well, I'll let Heather go with that, because there's a lot there that we can work with, actually.
There's so much there we can work with, and there's so many tools with Access Consciousness, the modality that I facilitate around having greater and greater communion with the earth. I would say that the number one step towards that is Access Consciousness bars, because it clears so many different points of view and opens the door to greater and greater communion with the earth and with everyone and everything in the universe. And so one of the questions that you can ask every morning is, Earth, what do you require of me today? When we have an awareness, then you've done the number one step, which is acknowledging that you have an awareness of the earth. And from that acknowledgement, okay, well, Earth, what do you require of me today? And Brendan Watt, I just attended a Choice of Possibilities, an advanced access class with him in Florida. And he was in Mexico for a couple months waiting for his visa. And he had a lot of time by himself in nature with the earth. And he started to ask the earth questions like, Earth, will you show me what happiness is? And so what if we can ask the earth for the facilitation we require? What if we can ask the earth for contribution? And so you can ask the earth, what questions could you ask the earth that would open the door to a greater possibility? Earth, what ease can you show me? Earth, what joy can you show me? What is joy? And really get that awareness for yourself, because once you get the awareness for yourself, no one can ever take that away from you.
Ooh, and as you bring up joy, a quote from, it's probably in a couple different books, but I'm thinking about it from Simone. She says that money follows joy. Joy does not follow money. So what would it take for you to truly enter the space of joy, where the universe could deliver to you opportunities to experience that joy by bringing you more abundance than you would ever imagine?
Yeah.
And all that doesn't allow that, destroy it or create it, right? Rockin' and back, out and back, all night shorts, boys and beyonds. And really, what else is possible? And the reason I say I bring that up, because we have certain programs with a non-access class with Zane. There is a fund for scholarships and things that we use. So depending on your situation and things, we might be able to work something out. So Amber, please reach out, and we might be able to facilitate some ease around that for you. And shameless plug for that. That starts May 4th for anybody else who is feeling the pulse of the of stepping into the earth space. There's a shaman apprenticeship program, because I'm in the shamana world and the access world, and they contribute to each other so well, but they're two whole separate animals. But for those of you who are considered or more drawn to Shamana land, I suggest both. That's why I take the shaman training every year, and I take 2 foundation classes every year. and then I really like drawing from the resources of both. But that is coming up on May 4th for people who are interested, and that's also on the emergenceofbeing.com website, but under experiences, and then the shaman training program. So check that out. Let's see. Oh, she will need to comment. Yep, definitely comment. And the other thing is, Amber, if you're off on Thursdays when your partner's off, you can come out for a private session, but come out on the bars night. If you can come out on the first Thursday of every month.
Great idea. Yeah.
You could get the private session, fine, but also how much fun would it be to also roll right into another 30-minute bar session with either me or another bars facilitator, and maybe a different facilitator, because everybody has their own filters and things like that. And me running your bars versus Heather versus someone else, it's it's a totally different experience. None of them are better or worse. It's just because of our own filters and what we can release and work through, the experience is different between people. So that could definitely be a lot of fun. Or if it's on the third Thursday, that's our practitioner night, and maybe we would have extra practitioners that might just, run a bar session, even if it's not a clinic night. And if you have that scenario and you really can't make it to the first Thursday, message me in advance. We may have the ability, based on how many practitioners are planning to be there, to do an impromptu clinic night on our practitioner night, possibly. So we'll throw that out there too, for only the people on the stream.
That's awesome. It's so much fun that you guys do that. I can't wait to be there on May 13th.
Yeah, because Heather's going to be like liquid by the end of the day, because we're going to have, because is that even the practitioner night? I'm curious, because you have the bars class.
There's the bars class, yeah.
So she's going to be like doing the bars class, and then let's see, is that the actual?
There's something that night, I recall.
Yeah, that's the second Thursday, but we will have a practitioner night anyhow. So while you're here, because we have to. We choose to.
How much fun can we have with that?
And I'm catching myself with that. I have to. I do that with my kids all the time. They're like, "Do I have to?" I'm like, "No, you get to. You get to choose to. You don't have to. Like, you always have the choice." Even though as a parent, I would like them to make the choices that bring ease to me a lot more frequently. but I look to strive not to. You have to do anything, and do that as a kindness to yourself too. You don't have to. You get to choose to. And that gets really empowering yourself, that you are in the choice, and life is not happening to you, it's happening through you.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. What do I get to do today?
Yeah, and Amber's like, sounds great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And on that note, Heather, how are you feeling? A good time to wrap?
Time to get some sugar, salt, water, hug a tree.
Take care of the body. Hug a tree. Oh my gosh, Heather, if we have a chance, there's this one tree out in Vermilion that is grown in a way that you can actually get inside the tree and stand up.
Oh, yes. I'll have that.
It's so much fun. But anyway, thank you so much for being part of the show today, for everybody's contributions. Please comment on the replay and let us know what other topics you'd like to see, and we will catch you tomorrow. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us today for the show. The Sonic Shaman is part of the Emergence of Being Contributor Network. Visit emergenceofbeing.com to learn about all the contributors and learn about our services and upcoming events. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. You can contribute to the show by supporting our efforts and sharing our content with those you care about and those who need it most.